Listen to me closely, because the words I am about to speak will redefine everything you have endured up to this exact second. You have spent years staring out into the distance, looking for God on the horizon, wondering if the dawn would ever break over the long, freezing winter of your life. You have been conditioned to believe that your breakthrough is always someday, a mirage hovering in a distant future that you can barely imagine anymore. But I am telling you right now, the era of your invisible waiting has violently come to an end. This is not a drill. This is not a season of more endurance or another test of your capacity to survive in the dark. In the very days you are walking through right now, the soil you watered with your sheer exhaustion is cracking open. Beneath the dirt, where human calculations failed and your own eyes could not detect a single tremor of progress, a massive harvest has already matured. I need you to let this truth sink into your bones before you take another step. The waiting room is closed. The agonizing season of planting in the dark is firmly behind you. What you are stepping into now is an unprecedented chapter of absolute fulfillment. This season carries the undeniable weight of every single promise I have ever spoken over your life. You thought your efforts were buried and forgotten, but every seed you placed in the ground with shaking hands, every silent act of obedience you performed when nobody was watching, every ounce of trust you gave me when you had zero evidence that I was even paying attention, it has all culminated into this moment. The answer to the prayers you screamed into your pillow is no longer on its way. It is standing right in front of you, fully grown, breathing, and completely abundant. Part 2. The power of prayers dropped into the void. Let us speak honestly about the silence. I know there were moments, countless agonizing moments scattered across your timeline where you felt entirely abandoned. You remembered the exact nights, the nights you surrendered so heavily that you felt your chest might cave in. You remember choosing to step forward in faith when it felt like walking off a cliff in pitch blackness, whispering, "I will trust you even if this breaks me." For many of you, there wasn't just one dramatic moment of sacrifice. Your faith was forged in 1,000 mundane, exhausting days. You kept showing up for people who never reciprocated. You poured your soul into purposes that offered zero applause. You kept speaking out into what felt like a cosmic void. You thought your desperate pleas were just ricocheting off a sky made of iron, crashing right back down to the floor around you. But I was listening. I caught every single word. I want to honor something incredibly specific right now. Your tears. Tears are the most authentic currency in the spiritual realm. They cannot be faked. They do not come from a place of religious performance. They are extracted from the deepest, most raw chambers of your soul. When you wept over the dreams that seemed entirely dead, when you cried for the people who walked away, those tears soaked into the earth like liquid fire. They were seeds of staggering power. Look at Jesus. Even Jesus stood in the crushing agony of the garden, sweating blood, staring into the terrifying silence of what was to come, yet he anchored himself to a higher will. He knew that the darkest Friday the world had ever seen was merely the setup for an unstoppable Sunday. You held on to that same anchor. Every time you chose grace when you were running on empty, every morning you dragged yourself out of bed when depression told you to stay down, all of it was registered in the courts of heaven. Not a fraction of your pain was wasted. Not a single tear was overlooked by the Creator who has been fiercely guarding your journey. The silence was never an absence. It was the sacred space where your greatest miracles were being constructed. Part 3. The secret underground, roots deeper than the hurricane. Let me address the burning question that has kept you awake at night. The one you whispered to the ceiling when you felt like giving up. Why did it take so long? If God is so good, why did the delay feel so brutal? Here is the unvarnished truth about how the kingdom operates. Seeds do not send you daily status reports. They do not erect neon signs in the dirt announcing their progress. The most miraculous, violent, and purposeful growth happens in complete and utter darkness, totally independent of your ability to measure it. Think about a man named David, whose business collapsed, leaving him feeling like a total failure. Or think of Sarah, who spent a decade praying for a family while watching everyone else's dreams come true, feeling entirely bypassed by grace. What David and Sarah didn't realize in their seasons of isolation was that the delay was never a punishment. It was a divine excavation. If I had handed you the monumental blessing you asked for 5 years ago, it would have crushed you. An abundant harvest dropped into a life with shallow roots does not produce a miracle. It produces pride, excess, and eventual collapse. Every time you felt like you were moving backward, every time you were overlooked, God was forcing your roots to dig deeper into the subterranean bedrock of His faithfulness. Think of the ancient oak trees that withstand Category 5 hurricanes. They survive not because they are lucky, but because decades of violent winds forced their root systems 50 feet into the earth. When the storm hits and snaps the young, arrogant trees in half, the ancient oak doesn't even flinch. You are that tree. The invisible years were the unseen architecture of your destiny. You were building the capacity to hold the sheer magnitude of what is coming without letting it destroy your character. You are anchored now, and because you survived the storm, you are finally ready to carry the weight of the harvest. Part 4. The 4 Pillars of Incoming Abundance. Now that your root system is virtually indestructible, the landscape is shifting. The harvest rushing toward you is not a vague, poetic illusion. It is tangible, it is aggressive, and it is going to detonate across 4 specific pillars of your life. First, the pillar of provision. Think back to every dollar you gave away when you were secretly terrified about your own bills. Every time you chose radical generosity over fearful hoarding. You planted those seeds into a divine economy that completely ignores the mathematics of Wall Street. Human effort produces a paycheck. Divine multiplication produces an avalanche. Wealth, resources, and unexpected opportunities are about to track you down from directions you never engineered. You will look at your accounts, your properties, your open doors, and the only logical explanation will be the fingerprint of God. Second, the pillar of vitality and health. You are stepping into a season of cellular and emotional resurrection. The chronic exhaustion, the mental fog that wrapped around your brain, the physical ailments that defied medical logic, the grip is breaking. The prayers you prayed over your physical vessel, even when healing felt like a fairy tale, are manifesting. A surge of supernatural stamina and sharp clarity is flooding your system. You are being restored to the original, vibrant blueprint of your creation. Third, the pillar of relational wealth. This might be the hardest harvest for you to accept because you have the scars to prove how dangerous people can be. You loved people who drained you. You bled for people who walked away. And naturally, you built massive titanium walls around your heart to survive. But hear me clearly. Walls built to keep out the pain will also block the incoming miracle. It is time to lower the drawbridge. The toxic cycles are severed. God is bringing individuals into your orbit whose loyalty is absolute, who do not view you as a resource to be consumed, but as a masterpiece to be celebrated. Fourth, the unstoppable calling. This is the moment the curtains rise. You spent years in obscurity, preparing for a stage you couldn't even see. You felt like you were sharpening a sword for a battle that would never come. But remember Jesus. He spent 30 years in complete, unrecognized obscurity for a mere 3 years of public ministry that split history in half. Your hidden years were not a waste of time. They were the ultimate training ground. The platform is now visible. The spotlight is hitting the stage. Do not shrink back. Do not let imposter syndrome tell you that you don't belong in these rooms. You are over-prepared, and your timing is flawlessly and undeniably perfect. Look out over the horizon. The God you have been waiting for has arrived, and he is holding the keys to the doors you thought were locked forever.
Part 5. Shattering the Illusion of Unworthiness. Before you take one more step into this new era, we have to violently dismantle a toxic illusion that is festering in your mind. It is the darkest secret you carry, the one you don't dare speak out loud. You look back at your messy middle, the years of waiting, and you obsess over your failures. You remember the weeks you were too depressed to pray. You remember the times your faith completely shattered, the moments you lashed out in anger, the days you cynically believed God had abandoned you entirely. And in the quiet of the night, a sinister voice whispers into your ear, "You disqualified yourself. You didn't believe hard enough. You weren't consistent enough. The harvest was yours, but you forfeited it through your own weakness." Listen to me very carefully. That is a total and absolute lie. False guilt is the enemy's final, desperate weapon to keep you from stepping into your promised land. I need to shatter that theology of perfectionism right now. Your harvest is not a wage paid out for flawless spiritual performance. If God's blessings relied on human perfection, heaven would be bankrupt and the earth would be entirely barren. Your moments of agonizing doubt did not uproot the seeds you planted in your seasons of fierce faith. The days you could barely whisper Jesus' name did not cancel out the days you boldly declared his promises. A seed planted in the dirt does not stop growing just because the farmer is having a panic attack above ground. My faithfulness is not a mirror reflecting your fluctuating emotions. It is a bedrock anchored in my own eternal character. I do not revoke a calling because you stumbled while carrying it. True faith is not the absence of doubt. True faith is the gritty, bruised, exhausted decision to simply get back up. It is looking at the wreckage of a bad week and saying, "I am broken, I am tired, but I am still here." That bruised, imperfect, stubborn faith, that is enough. It has always been enough. So drop the paralyzing baggage of your past mistakes right here, right now. Stop apologizing for being human during the hardest winter of your life. The growing season is over. You did not miss your window. The harvest belongs to you, not because you were perfect, but because the God on the horizon who promised it is perfectly faithful. Part 6. The Art of Managing the Downpour of Blessings. Now that you know you are worthy of this breakthrough, I must give you a severe warning. How you manage the incoming overflow is infinitely more critical than the overflow itself. An unprecedented harvest is crashing into your life, but if you do not know how to steward abundance, it will morph from a miracle into a curse. When the floodgates of provision open, human nature's immediate instinct is to build a massive fortress and hoard it all. You have lived in survival mode for so long that your brain is hardwired to grip everything tightly, terrified that the money, the opportunities, or the relationships might vanish tomorrow. You must break that poverty mindset immediately. In the kingdom's economy, you are not called to be a stagnant reservoir. You are designed to be a raging conduit. When your financial borders expand, the correct response is not arrogant accumulation. The correct response is radical distribution. A farmer who reaps a colossal harvest doesn't stuff every grain into his own mouth. He secures what his family needs, and then he feeds the region. The wealth rushing toward you has a divine assignment attached to it. It is meant to flow through your hands to answer the desperate prayers of someone else who is currently weeping in their own dark season. When breathtaking new relationships arrive, do not treat these people as rungs on a ladder to elevate your own status. You must invest in them with the same fierce loyalty you wished someone had shown you when you were at your lowest. And when your calling finally puts you on the stage, when the visibility and the applause finally hit, this is your ultimate test of character. You must remain the exact same person in the blinding spotlight that you were in the crushing shadows. The platform will try to seduce you into an ego trip. It will tempt you to forget the quiet, tear-stained years where your roots were actually built. Do not let the visibility strip you of your humility. Pride will incinerate a harvest faster than a drought. But a humble heart, a heart that recognizes that every ounce of favor, every open door, and every breath in their lungs is a gift from the Creator. That is the heart God trusts with limitless multiplication. When you distribute from a place of breathtaking gratitude, you activate a spiritual law of compounding interest. You turn today's harvest into the seed for tomorrow's unimaginable legacy.
Part 7. The Internal Metamorphosis, Your Immortal Legacy. We have talked about the tangible miracles, the finances, the relationships, the open doors, but let me tell you the most staggering truth about this entire process. The greatest, most breathtaking harvest you are receiving is not something you can deposit in a bank account. It is not a title on a door or a ring on your finger. The ultimate miracle is the person you have become. You are not the same individual who walked into that storm. The version of you that began this painful planting season was fragile. Your faith was dependent on good weather. Your peace was easily shattered by a single piece of bad news. But the crushing weight of the delay did something spectacular. It forged a titanium framework inside your soul. When you chose patience while every nerve in your body screamed to panic, you were literally upgrading your spiritual DNA. When you chose to forgive the people who betrayed you, not because they deserved it, but because your freedom demanded it, you severed the chains of bitterness that destroy most people's destinies. Every time you fell to your knees in total exhaustion and whispered the name of Jesus, finding a strange, illogical comfort in His presence, you were building an internal sanctuary that no economic collapse, no human betrayal, and no earthly crisis can ever touch. You now possess a peace that violently defies human logic. It is a terrifyingly calm resilience. When chaos erupts around you now, you don't disintegrate like you used to. You stand still. You analyze. You trust. You have acquired the rarest currency in the universe, hard-won, battle-tested spiritual wisdom. Do not overlook this internal empire. The external blessings will come and go, but this unshakable character, this profound intimacy with the Creator, is your immortal legacy. It is the exact internal architecture required to sustain the massive external harvest that is crashing into your life today. Part 8. The Dawn of God on the Horizon and Your Final Decree. We have reached the turning point. The brutal winter has officially expired. The seeds you wept over have shattered the soil. The era of preparation is complete, and the era of unprecedented manifestation is here. For years you stood in the freezing dark, staring out into the terrifying unknown, desperately looking for God on the horizon. You searched for a sliver of light, a single cloud the size of a man's hand, just a whisper of evidence that you were not forgotten. Look up. The horizon has arrived at your front door. The dawn has violently broken, and the light of the world is standing in the middle of your living room, holding the keys to the breakthrough you bled for. I want to leave you with the absolute core of this message, the unbreakable law of the kingdom. Your pain was never a mistake, and your tears were never wasted. Your fierce patience was the incubator for your miracle. But remember the ultimate condition of this blessing. You have been filled so that you can pour out. Your newly acquired abundance is the exact medicine required to heal the broken people around you. Do not keep this victory to yourself. Your testimony is the blueprint someone else needs to survive their current nightmare. Right now, I am calling you to make a physical decree in the physical world to lock in this spiritual reality. If you feel the sheer weight of this truth in your chest, if you know that your invisible season is over and your massive harvest has arrived, I want you to go down to the comments right now and type the word Amen. Do not type it casually. Type it as a battle cry. Type it as a contract with heaven, declaring, I am ready. I receive my harvest. I will not sabotage it with fear, and I will steward it with radical generosity. And then, take this video and share it. Send it to that friend who is on the verge of giving up. Send it to the family member who thinks their best days are behind them. Send it to the person who is still weeping over dry dirt, wondering if the seed is dead. Be the conduit. Be the proof they need that the harvest is real, that the waiting has an expiration date, and that the God who promised it will never, ever fail. The fields are ripe. The wait is over. Go gather your harvest.